I'm Herman Faust, and this is Enjoy It While It Lasts. My wife makes her debut on the podcast in today's deep dive conversation, Loving Someone with Cystic Fibrosis. Brenda talks with me about what it has been like for her dealing with my illness from the time she learned about it and then started watching me live with it and how she helped me through it, all the way through to the point where it nearly killed me. And we talk about how our relationship has grown through it all. Do you remember, like, what it was like for you learning about me having cystic fibrosis and just learning about more and more about it?
Kind of.
What do you remember first? Like, do you remember the first time?
Yeah, one of my distinct memories is researching it after you told me what you had. And I remember that was a big thing for me because then I would ask you, and I was like, did you know this and did you know that? And I feel like at that time your responses were a little bit more on the, like, almost dismissive. Like, I don't know. I remember I was talking about it at first and not feeling like the severity of the illness was. So
Like that I took it like that I took it as seriously?
Yeah.
You were basically like, did you know you're going to die?
I was like, let me just tell you what I read on Wikipedia. Why are you not focusing on what I'm saying? This is not good.
Your body is not right, dude. And I'm just like, yeah, but it's fine.
Yeah. That's how I remember feeling at the beginning.
Did it not cross your mind at all? Like at that point in the very beginning, learning, you're seeing, you felt like this whole, I'm reading that this person's body's not right. And he doesn't seem to be taking you seriously.
Well, you know me. I've never really taken. I try not to ever think about death. I take it seriously myself. So.
So then you thought you felt,
oh, it's fine.
You thought about it. You felt that way, and then you just didn't think about it at all.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, it's not gonna.
He said it's fine.
He's not gonna die of cystic fibrosis. Not while I'm around. Because I don't like to think or talk about death.
So that means it won't touch you. So it never even made you question, even for a second, whether you should date me.
No.
Like, what was your experiences like firsthand as we started dating more, or as we moved in really early? We moved in to live together after only a couple months, and even before that, we spent the night with each other. Mm-hmm. So, like, you got to see me taking treatments in the morning, mm-hmm. coughing.
Yeah, I mean, it was just something that I knew you did. It wasn't ever anything that like worried or bothered me, or, you know, even early on. I mean, I feel like your first hospital visit, I was already there, and I just kind of took that as, all right, it's just something that we do every few months. We're gonna go to the hospital. We're gonna stay there. Good. And sometimes that comes with a really good view. So I don't think it became like a big worry for me until we were in Nacogdoches and we went through your whole microbacterium, and you know, I think that was when it just started to hit me on a more serious level.
I think that also what led to that was me being hospitalized like 3 times within 6 months, mm-hmm. or something. And so it was like
we had to travel to Tyler to get you like a special doctor, and it was just...
and then it was a whole, so it was like it felt like a whole different layer, mm-hmm. of the illness.
Yeah, and that's when I think that worry that started then has never really gone away now. So I miss the carefree of our early 20s of, we both know you had it, but it was just, all right, it's just something that you have, and we just go on about our lives. And
it's been nothing but trouble. And then even as that worry got in, that's what he said in Nacogdoches, that's around the time when we started deciding that we wanted to start the process of get kids. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That again, so just like in the beginning of our relationship, it didn't make you question whether or not you should date me. As you started to feel the worry a little bit more, it didn't make you question whether or not we should have kids, or you should have kids with me.
No, I don't think I was thinking about it in terms of a terminal illness, even when we were going through that very difficult time. I was just thinking of it. I was like, oh no, it's going to be really hard, but you know, you have really good doctors. I mean, Over here in Dallas, you have the best doctors, don't you? So, yeah, no, it was never a deterrent. And, you know, I think you and I talked about whenever we did come to a place of having kids, of having to have those conversations of what if, even though I don't like to talk about things like that. I know we did, because I know it came up with your doctor, too, of, you know, have y'all gone through that? What will happen if y'all all of a sudden get sick? And so it was something that you and I at least acknowledged. And I knew in the back of my mind that it was possible. Now, at that time, we thought we were going to adopt one child, so.
Our plan was, one and then maybe one later. We said we might be open to 2 at one time.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, there we go with 3. Being all obnoxious.
And so at that point, I decided that cystic fibrosis was not going to kill you, because now we have 3 kids.
And you were not going to be a single mother of 3.
No, sir. I'd have been very upset.
But then that's when I started getting sick worse.
Yeah.
That's when the first time, around when we got the kids, that's around the first time that the doctors brought up the idea of going to see the transplant doctors. Not that I needed it just yet, but that's when I started seeing the transplant team around the time we got the kids.
Yeah, I remember. Right after we got the kids, yeah, you just started getting sick.
Because these kids just kept getting me sick.
All the germs, even though they were not going to school or anything.
Yeah, they stayed home with me all day, but they still got
And I was probably, to be fair to them, I was probably bringing it from school.
Yeah. Yeah, you were at school every day.
Yes, I was bringing germs.
I'll never forget the first, like within the first week when we got Poe, like you were back at work after a few days or whatever. I don't remember exactly how long, but it was my first day being home alone with the baby. And I went to go Target to pick up some diapers or whatever. And, you know, people they see a baby, they like to be all like, ooh, how cute, whatever. And they see just how tiny she was. And they're like, oh, you know, how is she? At this point, you know, like she's 6 days old. And she's like, oh, where's your wife? It's like, oh, she's at work. She's a teacher. She's at school. They just look at me all so appalled, like.
I know. Like,
and I didn't explain to them that that you didn't.
No.
I just let it hang like that.
I know. Like, even for me, one of the funny things about the process was maternity leave. I think I qualified for it after I adopted, and I was like, okay, then we just take maternity leave now. We've had the kids for several years now.
Yeah.
But
back to the right now though, the main conversation we were having, as I started seeing the transplant team, at that point I was still like all right, but I was just getting sick a lot more often. How, like, did your fear escalate at that point, or were you too distracted by all the things that was going on by being a new parent, and by at that point too you were also kind of coming towards leading up to being an administrator? So did the health like kind of stop being get put on the back burner, or did it get intensified because of what was going on?
I think I was just worried a lot more during that time, but it's also kind of a blur, because I feel like that time period kind of went by very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, the kids being little, having, you know, you in and out of being sick, and yeah, trying to move to being an administrator. It was just, it's kind of a blur, but I know that I was worried a lot. But I do think we were both very distracted with the kids, that maybe your health was not always at the forefront for either one of us, because we didn't have the mental capacity for it, and try to keep these 3 little kids
yeah. And that's just the parenting aspect. That's not even taking into account the whole fostering aspect of the adoption process, which at some point I have it written on my list. If you're going to be joining and talking to me every now and then, that would be one thing we could talk about. So then it was like, it kind of stayed that way for a while for us, I guess, with my health for a few years when the kids were small. And it didn't start really escalating until around the time we were buying this house, and that's when it started to seem more like realistic that I was going to need a transplant. I remember at the time me feeling like the fear of like not knowing if I was going to live or die.
And I
Were you pushing it? Were you still at like kind of like it because if you're of a desire to avoid it, were you still pushing it back, or were you having that?
No, I mean, I was definitely thinking about it too, but yeah, I'm always looking for unhealthy ways to avoid. I think the biggest thing to remember from that time period was, going back and forth with hearing about this new medicine that was going to come out. And I have distinctive memories of that, of you calling me and telling me, oh, not good news here, or, oh, no, it's not moving forward, or I won't qualify. And I remember those feelings of just frustration during this time period of like, okay, there's something that might be able to help, and it's within our reach, but
That's when Trikafta was going through the trial, like first the development of it. And I guess I started because I started hearing about it. I think I first started hearing about it, back in whenever we first got the kids, when I first started getting a little bit more sick. So we were hearing about it for years.
Yeah, so if I'm being honest, I think the unhealthy way that I was dealing with everything during that time, with your health, was probably anger, because I felt like that's when we were most frustrated with the healthcare system, and how difficult it was. And so you have this bit of hope, and then it's
and it was a roller coaster, because there would be times where we would feel like it'd be like, oh, it's okay. They move forward in the development or in the research process, where they've approved the study has passed this stage of it or whatever. But and then 2 months later, but I got sick again, and my my PFTs went down another 5%. Oh wait, we're gonna have to wait another year before we get the med. So it just kept being like good news, bad news, good news, and then
and then it's like, okay, so we're gonna get ready for the lung transplant. We need to make sure that we have that. We're talking to our friends and our family about, hey, if this happens, we can do this and this. But then also just in the background of the hope of this new medicine that could be coming.
Yeah,
it was just a roller coaster of emotions.
I do remember feeling very. We were very determined. Or I at least we talked in our conversation and I felt it like a personal, almost like it was a goal, like as if I had any control over it, but very determined to like hold out on the lung transplant until I was able to get to the point of trying this new medication. I in fact remember there was one day where it was an extreme roller coaster because like we had I got called by they had got to the point where they were applying for. I forget. Do you remember the term they used? Like whenever it was like it wasn't public yet, but it had passed all the studies, and they were. It's like if you were
like a trial.
Basically, it was past the trials where it was basically like where you were if you were close to death. If you're like like a Hail Mary shot for you or whatever. Yeah. Okay, we'll let you use it before we give it. Do you remember the term that was used for that?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, but so that's what they were applying me for, and then. I get a call and they told me that I got approved, that they were going to give it to me. And like, I remember telling you soon, I called you or texted you, whichever one right away. And then like an hour later they called me back and they said that they weren't going to give it to me after all, because they found that somebody within the, honestly, I don't even remember who, but I think it was somebody on the pharmaceutical end, and the company's end, I mean, that they weren't going to give it to anybody that had marijuana use in their history, in their history, and that they had pulled my name off the list because of that.
That's probably the memory I'm thinking of.
And then because like I had to call, because then I had to call you after like I had just told you like, oh yes, I'm gonna get it.
Yeah, the memory I'm thinking of, I was driving. I wasn't driving from work. I was driving like from the Target area coming down. And yeah, you called me to share bad news, and I'm assuming it was this one, because I remember just feeling just frustrated, and I think I took out my anger on you, which was probably,
I
not
think
the right thing to do, but I'm sure I was mad at you as you were dealing with all of the
I think that was
the emotions of the news too. But
that was
yeah,
that probably happened a few times during that time period.
yeah, yeah.
But then like I feel like it was like a week later where I got told that, and this is where I found out that there was the one nurse practitioner in particular. In this case, she was also she like talked and argued a lot with the company. Basically, she stood up for me a lot and got me and got it approved. Got where I did get it approved again.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the day I went to go pick up the medication. I actually had an appointment with the transplant team that same day, right afterwards, and like I was all excited because I was like I reached my goal. I'm starting the medicine before I get, but then like that day, like as I'm with the transplant team, it's like you don't have much longer before you do. We need to start this already. Um, and then I did go up for a little bit, but then I started going down again when I got sick again, and that's whenever we. Do you remember what how you felt going through the process of like? Whenever we felt that, okay, we're going to say yes, we need the transplant. And then being told by Dallas that they're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think just kind of going back to my earlier feeling of anger, because I feel like during this time period, it was just one thing after another with the medical system. And at that point, like just being told that there's doctors that can help you here in Dallas where you get all your treatment since you were a kid, and then for them to deny you, and then for us to realize or know in the background like how much of it was just political based on numbers. So yeah, like what's the likelihood of survival, and how many possible deaths can they risk. It was just a whole frustrating situation. So I think whatever sadness that might have been feeling, I just think it was pushed because there was just so much to be angry about during that time period.
Do you feel like you had ever got to the point of just being like, all right, well, he's going to die?
I don't think so. Yeah, because even us talking about it later and how you were feeling during this time that you told me years later, I don't think I had that thought ever seriously. I mean, I think I wondered, I would go through scenarios in my head of how to do this and this and this. But I don't know that I ever processed it in terms of accepting it.
Even as I was like going to the doctor weekly and walking around with oxygen and like.
It was just like, we're going to get a transplant and that's going to be its whole kind of another kind of animal. But
we had a 2 month it was like a 6-week period of in between like being told no while we were waiting to see like if we were going to go to North Carolina to see Duke, or I think there was one in Pittsburgh as well, another option. We were applying, and then but we had no guarantees that anybody would say yes.
Yeah.
And we also had no idea how long it was going to take, and I'm clearly over here like
I think going to Duke changed the trajectory of my thinking too, to a more positive, because I just feel like they did and said everything right. Like it was always, it always felt to me like, okay, well, when it gets to this, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then hearing, how many transplants they did over there, like, I was like, all right, this is a hospital that just saves people. And I needed that thinking after dealing with what we dealt with in Dallas.
But I'm talking about more about before we, like, leading up to knowing that Duke is going to say yes. You just always felt like, though, like somebody, like it's going to happen. Either they'll say yes or I'll go to yes. Like somebody's going to say yes and it's going to happen. Like that's how that was still your mentality.
Because I felt like when we were talking about it during this time, we were going through different hospitals, different centers, and that kind of the mindset that I thought we had at that. And maybe I'm misremembering, but Duke was one of the recommendations, not the only.
Yeah, because I think I had the idea that I didn't necessarily think that everybody was going to say no, but at the time period, I probably didn't think I was gonna make it, but until they, like, even if they say yes, well, it's too late. I'm already. Now, you mentioned how Duke made you feel, but also by the time Duke, like, it was time to go there, I was better, like, somewhat better. I was better in terms of, obviously not in imminent death, I guess.
Right, but we couldn't trust it because you were up and down so much
Oh,
during this
yeah.
time. And so even with that, it never felt like...
I always
I
like
didn't
to-
go over there thinking you weren't going to need it. In fact, what happened afterwards, I don't know.
I always
That
like
you imagined either that you would be years later and still not having a transplant.
No, I do always like to, and every time we talk about this in any way, like to add into the fact that by the time we got to the point of going to Duke, I ended up being the one driving all the way there and back. Like, that's how good, how much I had obviously improved because I could be trusted not to pass out. Oh, in fact, yeah, you drive the whole 22 hours basically. I think you drove like an hour to give me a lunch break once.
Yeah, you see how I had such high expectations for you not to die. I was like, look, you're fine. You have a little bit of cystic fibrosis. You're going to survive this. Drive us.
Just
Drive
a little
us
bit
to talk to your lung transplant doctor. And then drive us back.
Yeah, like, so yes, like you said, since then that was 2020. Here we are 6 years later, and I've not even had to go back to North Carolina. I've never been close to it. I've avoided it, and not only that, in the last several years, it's actually like I haven't been to the hospital in almost 2 years now.
Yeah, I think in looking back now to those times, to that stressful time and the after time, I feel like one of my main topics of conversation with everyone was this new miracle medicine, just Trikafta. Like, it was just magic. It just saved your life.
Do you think that it's reinforced your toxic positivity too much, or do you think that you've had this brush of near death, and that if I ever do, or if and when I ever do take that turn again, that you feel like you've had almost practice handling it? Or do you think you're going to always just be in the back of your mind still like, he got better that time, he's going to get better this time?
Yeah, I mean, I'll still have that because that's how I am. But I do think I would process things a little bit. I mean, I know I'll process things healthier now, where, like, I think talking about it a little bit more than what we did during that time, and thinking more of your perspective rather than, how I'm feeling and lashing out at you. I think if when we go through this again, it will be a little more healthier in terms of our communication with each other.
So
I think, but I feel like I could still find easy reasons to get mad at you.
Okay, I was about to say, like, I don't know. I feel like now anytime there's any disturbance in the household force, I'm gonna get lashed out at.
Like, that's it. You've had your run.
I remember one of the lines, like, it was, and it's fair. It's not like to say that you. I do think that the surviving partner has the harder job in it. But I probably would have appreciated a little bit. I don't need to be the focus all the time, but just every now and then, like, I'm the one dying too.
Yeah, well, it just shows you how Love was like, well, it's not gonna happen. You're gonna be fine.
Like, and I'm mad at you for even making me deal with
all my emotions. No, but I mean, that's probably is the guilt that I have during this time. Is I know that I was lashing out against you were the closest person that was, and you just happened to be the one that was dealing with it. So what can you do?
I couldn't yell back. I was too out of breath.
Yeah. You're too tired.
Just sit there. Remember, you only got one life to live. You might as well enjoy it while it lasts.